Right.
Hello. Oh, loud. Okay, we're going to start. Oh, I don't think this group has ever been this quiet before. I told Rob Stephen, just by coming in the building and we feel like we're in shul, we'd start talking. So, I'd like to welcome you all to our first annual Toda Rabah Gala. I'd like to thank HIR, Rabbi Exler, Yael for all the help that they have given us in this wonderful lobby of ours, which has been the home of our knitting. I wasn't sure if we'd actually be knitting today or eating, but it seems like we're very capable of eating, knitting, and talking all at the same time. For those of you, this should be a very For those of you, this should be a very familiar sight. This is how we started making hats. Fern and I were trying to figure out how many 100 hats we've made. And the person who started us off and who will be giving us a presentation is Tanya Singer, who came and brought presents, always welcome. And Tanya came to us, she was here when we had a Body Connection Sukkah project. And Tanya came with her cousin, Mrs. Bender, who we all know and love. And Tanya was sitting with needlepoint. So right away we attached to each other and have been strong friends ever since. And of course, that was in the middle of Sukkot and Chol Hamoed, and time October 7th, and our lives changed. And Tablet started knitting hats for soldiers. And I contacted Tanya, and more or less the rest is history. We then took off and we've been making baby blankets, and we've been making necklaces through Fern. We've been making scarves. We've been making blankies. Here are some of our blankies. We've been making pocketbooks. We've been crocheting. We've been knitting. We have been sending our things through Abby to Israel. We've been sending anyone we see on the street who's speaking Hebrew. We go, oh, we have things. Can you take them to Israel? We are very honored. Another link in our chain has been getting yarn. And so, I don't know, did you reach out? Somebody called me and said there's a woman in Boston who will match dollars. So if you can raise $100, she'll match you $100. And I said, okay, give me 15 minutes. But I called back in 10 that we had $100. Our initial fundraising brought us to $800. And we've been schnorring ever since. All of the yarn has been bought either through donated funds or from everyone emptying out their stash, which has been wonderful. And through your generosity and other people's generosity. So these also should look familiar, that I've been leaving hundreds of these in my lobby, and little elves pick them up. And then the next week, little elves bring back finished hats. Somebody is actually knitting. Oh, here's another group. Thank you. Another one. There are actually people in Staten Island who are knitting for us and mailing it. Last week, somebody from Ithaca, unbeknownst to Sharon, sent me a bunch of hats. Judy has been mailing them from Florida. Bonnie has been knitting in Florida. We have guests from Scarsdale and New Rochelle, from all over our community, our shul, and other shuls in the neighborhood. We've gathered, we've knit, so many wonderful friendships have been formed because of this group and through the group. It's almost like we're having too much fun. So it's just been a wonderful way for us to build community and get to know each other. So a good way to keep a rabbi's remark short is to know when he's leaving. So if I stop talking, then you get Rav Exler. I also want to do a shout out, and maybe she'll speak a few words to Stacy, who has come from Team. No, she's not speaking. But that's Stacy, who I've never met, forgets all this stuff and writes me the most enthusiastic text afterwards, like, OMG, these pocketbooks are fantastic, Marlene. And she goes, oh, there's a headband. And, oh, I love this doll. And, oh, I love this. So thank all of you so very much for all the love and the time and the good humor and willingness to come out. We've been knitting too long. We made 80 hats for Russ Stevens' nephew group. Abby, who you all know, Abby Marcus, collected money for a group who needed 35 helmets. And I don't know if any of us chipped in for the helmets, but we did send the helmets with 35 caps. So boys and girls in Israel are wearing our caps, and they may we only knit for new, happy, healthy babies and not for soldiers. And now he has 8 minutes.
Watch me, I'm not even going to use it all. It's so wonderful to be with this group. Truly, the dream of this bite is that it welcomes people from all backgrounds to come together to form community and to do things of meaning for the Jewish people and for the world. And I can think of no better expression of those values and that vision than this group. I really consider this Knitting Club to be a jewel in the crown of the Bait, and I'm so incredibly grateful to you. Whenever we walk in, or I should say more accurately, probably walk down, for myself and Rabbi Bracha, whenever we walk down from the office floors into this lobby space and see it filled with friendships being formed and kindness being done through the work of your fingers, it's uplifting and inspiring. We want to tell this story more. First, I really want to thank Nancy, the master knitter, connector, giver, who is the knits community, and she is a gift to our bite and to all of us. There's a lot of stitching things together that goes on behind the scenes, and we're so incredibly grateful. I want to also add in absentia my thanks to Yael, who is a tireless advocate for this group and behind the scenes makes all of this happen. And I want to share a word of Torah with you because stitching is one of the things, stitching is one of the things we're not allowed to do in principle on Shabbat. I know it's not always, it's such a beloved pastime, but embedded in that law is a beautiful insight into what stitching is all about. It is considered a melechet machshevet, that is to say, a creative act, not just a restful leisure activity, but a creative act. The way we determine what are the labors that we don't do on Shabbat are by what was used to construct the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the place where we connect to God's presence most deeply, even though we can connect to God wherever we are in the world. And the curtains and covers of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle, were made with stitching. And that makes it a sacred act and a creative labor of the kind which is so powerful that when we rest on Shabbat, we refrain from it. And if you look into the laws of what actually constitutes the kind of stitching that fits this bill, it is connecting two things which were separate, which can no longer be unconnected except by ripping. That's the technical definition. And what it actually says to us is it means that we're weaving things in such a way that creates something new, that makes something more than the individual parts. It's no longer yarn, sort of loose. It's now something interwoven that makes a new fabric whole. That's what whole with the W-H-O-L-E. That's what in Hebrew tofel, tefillah, is all about. And the metaphor lends itself to everything that happens here. The stitching of friendships and relationships, the creation of objects, which once they go on their journey to their recipients, create an inseparable bond between those of you who've never met the people who receive them and the people who receive them on the other side who have never met you, but you really are knitted together and stitched together in this fabric of the Jewish people and the community that loves and supports Medinat Yisrael, that reaches out to those who are needy and vulnerable in a way that can never be separated apart again. And that's what I find incredibly powerful and moving. There's a last thought, which is that when rabbinic literature talks about the loving kindness that God expresses in creating the world and in reaching out across the divide between God's realm and our realm, the language that it uses is the extending by God of a chut shel chesed. Literally means a thread, a chut, a thread of loving kindness. So the bond that we have with God is actually described by knitting together the fabric of the divine and the human. And I truly, truly feel that this group exemplifies this every time you're here together, and when each in your own places you continue this work. It stitches you to each other, it stitches us to the recipients and partners on the other side who we're bonded to by what you have made for them, and it stitches us together with God. And those three connections perhaps are what Kohelet Ecclesiastes refers to when he says, Hachut HaMeshulash, the three-ply cord, lo bimhera yinatek, will not easily be undone. So for what you do every day, Nancy, for what you've created here and for what this community has done to stitch friendships, to bond ourselves to people across the ocean, our Jewish brothers and sisters and all those in need, and in the way in which this connects us even more deeply to our creator, the ultimate artist and knitter in the sky. I'm so grateful to, and I wish everybody continued knitting in good health here and wherever we are and find ourselves for many, many years to come. We're just so grateful and so much celebrate the work that you do. So thank you.
Wow. So they are capable.
Hi, everybody. I want to tell you a story. I was just in Israel myself. I arrived yesterday morning. I was there with my husband for 9 wonderful days with my family. My granddaughter had a bat mitzvah. And thank you. We learned together Megillat Ruth, which is all about chesed. And it was really, she spoke about it. It was really powerful. We learned on Zoom together. All my children and grandchildren live in Israel. When I went to Israel, I asked Abby right away, what can we do? And she said, I got bags for you. So we took 4 extra bags, and 3 of them were wool, were these wool or whatever, acrylic yarn. And I know how important it is to send them. The 4th one was gear. I don't know what was in it, and I didn't ask. So I felt like I was a part of that. But what I wanted to tell you is that separately, when I had sent a few months ago with somebody, she was collecting jewelry, costume jewelry, and we wrote little notes in each bag. They were each in a clear plastic bag. And then she gave it to a woman who was in a hotel in Jerusalem. And the woman who herself was from Kiryat Shmona, do you know where that is? It's in the north, it's being bombed incessantly, and they're basically, you can't live there right now. And she put out a, help me out here.
Display.
Yeah, like a display, thank you. And then women were able to come and they felt pretty. And so I was connected with this woman. And I decided, since a cousin had left me a lot of jewelry, I said, I'm gonna do the same thing. So I met with her and I first sent her an email. And I could hear in her answer in the email that it was hard. She didn't sound, like her tone was sadder. And this is what she wrote to me. This is 5 months later. I'll say it in English, and she wrote to me in Hebrew. She said, my son was injured in the war. He has friends who were killed. My home is destroyed in Kiryat Shmona. My whole family is basically displaced, except for her mother who's in Tveria. They're all in the hotel in different areas. And it is so nice to know that we aren't forgotten. So I spent about 20 minutes talking to her. I gave her the bag, and you could see that it gave her joy. Now that was the jewelry, but that's not the point. The point is that everybody brings something. So nobody should say you need only the helmets, because there are so many people suffering there that aren't even in the war right now. Maybe their family is, but just the fact that they haven't been home and they can't go home. And then they get this beautiful little, either the yarn that they can do crocheting or knitting, where they get this beautiful baby blanket. It means we're not forgotten. You have not forgotten them. Each thing that you do is with love, and you are lifting somebody's heart. And I can tell you that from a personal experience from 1 week ago when I met with this woman in the Jerusalem hotel. Same woman, there's Judy, same woman that she introduced me to. So I thought it was important to share that with you, and I have one more thought to share. You know, I'm a rabbi, Torah, I gotta give Torah. This Shabbat we'll be reading Bamidbar, also my Bat Mitzvah Parsha, but so not relevant. At the beginning, this counting. So first I want to tell you that when you first started, it was like a small group, and then I come and it exploded. You know, whatever number there was at the beginning, it was ×2 and ×3 and ×4, just amazing. And every time I was just so amazed that it had grown so beautifully. And Rashi says on Sa'at Rosh B'nai Israel, instead of saying that you should count each person, it says Sa. It's a different form. What it means is raise up. Because each person, the Torah said that, Rashi explains that each person is lifted when they are counted, because each person is important. And each one of you is important. If you're the one crocheting, if you're the one delivering, if you're the one bringing snacks, if you're the one sitting here to bring cheer and be connected and make sure that everybody has the patience to crochet or knit a little bit more, if you're the one organizing, if you're the one, and I know everybody here, each of you is so important. Sa'at Rosh B'nai Israel. Each one of you is not a number, but very important. So I want to thank each and every one of you. I love it. This is my favorite time when I come here and I see the knitting group. You're just awesome. You bring so much joy and cheer into this room, and you bring so much joy and cheer to Israel. Thank you so much.
Everyone who's knitting or doing something, just pick it up so we can be in awe. Look at this. And then after she takes the picture. Okay, and this is Tanya from Tablet Magazine, who has been just so amazing in sharing her knowledge and patterns and yarn and connecting me to people who could get us yarn and just fitting us into the much, much bigger picture, and putting me in touch with Stacy. You really don't want to talk about it? Yes. Okay. So let me embarrass and bring up this second, because you can change your mind otherwise. Stacy used to live in Riverdale. She lives in Teaneck, and we have been emailing for months, and we met today for the first time. She came specifically to be here with us. And I bring bags and bags to Stacy, and she goes through them meticulously and then sends me gushing emails of admiration for all your work, because I'm still trying to finish my 4th. But try it. So here is Stacy.
Okay, hi, I'm Stacy McClellan. Like Nancy said, I did start here when I got married. We lived in Riverdale for the first 2 years of our marriage. And so when I was walking, you know, it's one of those things, but we lived across the street from the RJC. And when I was walking over there, I kind of remember, and I walked down, and I thought it's so ironic, because when I left Riverdale, I was pregnant with my first child, and haven't been here in years and years for whatever reason. And you know, now my daughter's she's going to be a senior in Stern. She's ready to start her life. She's moving on, and here I'm walking back into Riverdale, like, just, I don't know, it's very meaningful to me. And after all these years of raising my kids, I'm a stay-at-home mother. It's been very exciting to like get involved this past year with all the stuff that's going on, how we can support Israel. And so what happened is, after October 7th in Bergen, I live in Bergenfield, but in Bergen County, there was a big collection effort to get gear and all kinds of stuff, as you know, over to Israel. So I worked on all that. We sent like everything, vests, helmets, thermals, all kinds of military supplies. And after about 6 weeks, it's very intense work. Like I'm friendly with Abby, and I work with her, but I don't know how she does it, because it's a very high stress, a lot of money, a lot of, you know, just high level stuff, and a lot of approvals and customs in Israel. It's very complicated. So I give her a ton of credit. So after about 6 weeks, I realized like it's a little too much for me, but I want to do something in the morale building area. So I got hooked up with people in Israel who were raising money and trying to support the hotel evacuees. And one of the first things we did was we sent games. So we did like an Amazon list, and people sent games, and then we would find passengers, and we would go, you know, distribute the games in Israel. And then we went into, I just like went on and on. We did mikveh packages for Miluim wives, so like wives of whose husbands were serving, to encourage, I guess, like to keep encouraging them to go to the mikveh even though their husbands were away. We had donations from different places, and we would make packages, and I would pack up all the stuff. And then on the Israeli side, I worked with different organizations that would go and deliver them to the mikvahs so that women, you know, like when they went, and if their husbands were away or not, at least they would have like you know, a little present and just something to like show them that we cared. And that was very meaningful. We sent like thousands of the packages, and then it just, I don't know how, but I think Abby connects me with Nancy, connects me with Tanya, excuse me, and we started this yarn thing. So at the beginning, we did an Amazon, right? And we had 4 duffel bags of yarn, and we thought we were like amazing, and that's it. And that was in January, and then it like really just, you know, snowballed. And so up to date, we sent 44 bags of yarn and knitting supplies and knitting needles and things. And you know, and in addition, like I've sent another 30. Like I think I'm up to like 75 bags. It's a little crazy, but everything is, you know, I take pride in what we're sending, and I try to treat it like I see the love and the care that everyone puts into what they're creating here. It's true when I get, you know, I got crossbodies this last week, right? I'm not sure, I don't know who made what because it doesn't always say the names. But your crossbody purses were adorable. I don't know who Mrs. Bello is. You don't know Bello?
Oh, yeah.
So she makes the, but I see all her notes. She makes the stuffed animals.
Yes.
But like when they come in, I can't get over it. I have to take pictures and send them to all my friends. Look what the ladies have done. Right, and the dolls. I mean, it's the I don't know. You could see the love in every stitch, and I think that that's really translated. And when we deliver stuff, so with some of the blankets, we delivered to a group called Widows of Warriors, which is you know, for obviously the name is obvious, but it's a group through the Global Israel Alliance, and they, you know, they work with either women who are pregnant now, have given birth recently, or whose husbands are serving, or they lost them. And it's just like the handmade aspect of it is so important and so valuable. And then on the yarn side, we distribute to a bunch of different yarn, like knitting circles. We have over 30 knitting circles between all the different, there's a few different like organizations that run them, but there's 30 knitting circles, and there's about like over 600 women who participate at this point, and they're opening more. And like you said, from Kiryat, like the rabbi said, from Kiryat Shmona, there's a story. There's one hotel in, I think it's in Ashkelon, and it has it's filled with evacuees who are Russian, and a lot of them are Holocaust survivors, and they lived in this community, Shlomi, up in the north. And they were literally pulled off the streets. Like one woman, I heard the story, was taking out her trash and her house coat, and like the police just grabbed her and said, "Let's go, we have to evacuate." She had nothing. And we send them yarn, and then they like also made, I don't have it yet, but I saw a picture. They make dolls, like little dolls with Israeli flags to send back as thank you presents, and they're so grateful. It literally is everything everyone said, that every, you know, it's like mitzvah gereret mitzvah. Like we think we're doing something on this side, and if we get something else, and then that gets it. And it's such a beautiful thing to be part of. And like I said, to be back at Riverdale at this stage of my life, actually doing something that's really, it feels very meaningful. And it's, you know, a lot of people have said to me, it's a great example for your kids, which is nice. Although my kids are like completely sick of yarn and nobody wants to do it anymore. The other thing I was going to say is that we did actually get a huge donation from Lion Brand Yarn, which was a little crazy. Like I had a contact there, and they sent 2 pallets of yarn from pallets, 2 pallets of yarn from Georgia, and we just packed those and sent them over. So we really have, and you know, people collecting their stash and everything. So, anyways, it's all covered to all of you. I'm so inspired. It's really beautiful. Thank you. Keep knitting.
She didn't want to see.
Hi, everybody. Do I need this? Yes? Okay. I'm Tanya Singer. I work for Tablet Magazine. I feel so honored to be here and so connected to this building in so many ways, and I won't spare you the Jewish geography, except to say that Nancy let down an important detail about how we were first connected, which is my beloved cousins, Samuel Martyr and Eva Bender, who lived just down the street. Nancy was incredible at setting up visits for Eva, and so that's how I became aware of Nancy. And who is this Nancy who's sending people to visit my lovely cousin after she had a fall last year? And thank God I saw her last week, and she's for her birthday.
So she's like, what a difference in a year. So thank you to all of you, and thank you, Nancy, for just all that you do. I know it's hard to be praised, but I can't say enough.
But it's not
So there's something else you may not know about Eva, and I'll start with that, which is, so I grew up in that sort of corporate media world, working really all the time. I was working at Bloomberg, I worked for Yahoo, I worked for Time Inc. I was always in these like very high pressure, crazy jobs, and I learned to knit because my bubby was a knitter, and she passed away when I was a very little girl, and I never learned from her. And I thought every Jewish woman knit. I thought like Jewish women play mahjong, they knit, like they pinch cheeks too tight, like they do these set of things that my bubby did. They belong to Hadassah, whatever the things were. So when I became an adult, I was like, well, what do you mean every Jewish woman isn't knitting? And to me, it was just like what you did. And I think I was always drawn to it, and always drawn to textiles. And I bet many of you, how many of you have like a textile, something in your family going back? Tailor, yeah, I mean, it's like, it's in our blood, 100%. My Zadie was a dry cleaner, he was a tailor. It's like, it's in the genes, it's one of those jobs Jews have had forever and ever. So long story short, became interested in like ways that textiles, so I learned to knit when my son was in kindergarten, and just after his bar mitzvah, we did a family trip. I started a sampler blanket for him. It was 1,000,000 stitch patterns. Anyone ever do something like this? It was like a crazy project. It made me crazy. It was like, this square's popcorn, this square's crazy cables. So it's like, as soon as I learned the pattern, I'm like, now I'm done, next pattern. And I was like, it was crazy and counting, and it was a lot. So I put it away. I was like, forget this blanket, I'm putting it away. And 6 months after my son's bar mitzvah, after this family trip, we found out he had a brain tumor, which needed to be removed. So all I wanted to do was wrap him in this blanket that I hadn't finished. And I cannot explain the draw, although both rabbis did an excellent job of maybe explaining why I was drawn to that. Why did I think this blanket was the thing I needed to give him? And so I had to learn to crochet. So I learned to crochet, put that blanket together, and he was much bigger. He was in kindergarten when I started. So picture a 13-year-old who covered, this half of him. But it's like he loved it. He loved it. And it from then on, I was knitting all the time. And so I really realized how important knitting is in helping us find healing individually and then in community. And I became drawn down a whole rabbit hole of knitting and the Shoah. And I brought this in case anyone's interested. I've done a lot of writing about stories of women who have knit to survive in very hard times. And I've met incredible people and families, and did not think that I would be involved in Israel and knitting, and all these things. And I thought I was just sort of a crazy person who had this weird interest in Jewish expression and my sort of Jewish spirituality and knitting and family and all these connections to me. And so being here in the Bayit and seeing people who feel like I do is like the best feeling in the world. So Eva's in here. I'll leave this to look at later. So I went to Tablet Magazine about 3 years ago to work in our podcast group. And they were like, wow, you do all this weird knitting stuff. Tablet, anyone read Tablet? Okay. So Tablet's not usually known for knitting and things like this. It's news, it's politics, it's Israel. Uh-oh, do I need a password or anything? Uh-oh. We have a password?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Our tech team is here.
Waited too long.
Rabbi rabbinic tech team.
So just at the beginning of the year, like right around high holiday time, when I saw some of you for Sukkot, I began a podcast with Stephanie Butnick, who co-hosts the Unorthodox podcast, called Beautifully Jewish. And we wanted to, this is pre-October 7th, we wanted to talk about the ways that beautiful things help us feel, yes, enrich our Jewish lives. And we started with Sukkot, which is like probably one of my, if not my favorite thing, like it's way up there for me. And I think a sukkah, like decorating a sukkah is one of the coolest things that we get to do. And so we did a whole thing for Sukkot, and then of course October 7th happened. And we didn't know what to do with Beautifully Jewish. Like we started in this like beautiful pink, everything's pink and it's happy and bright, and like, yeah, now we have a war. What do we do? How do we respond? And in the knitting world that I thought I was part of, the bigger knitting community, which is a joke, I was waiting for a response. Like when the Ukraine invasion happened, there were blue and gold patterns everywhere, and knitters were like, "We must support Ukraine, and we must fundraise and do all these things for Ukraine." Great. So like after October 7th, I'm waiting. Like now they'll see. Now they'll support Israel. Like okay, I knew in May 2021 some of the knitters were problematic that I followed, but I knew for sure October 7th. Like forget it. These are not my people. They're not listening. They're not paying attention. So we have to do something ourselves. So I went to Tablet. And I said, okay, we started this beautifully Jewish thing. Could we start knitting hats for the Chayalim? Could we just like throw this out and see if anyone wants to knit with Tablet? Which is like putting those things together is very funny. So they were like, whatever you want. Like if that's what you want to do, great. Great. So I was very nervous to put it out there. I'm like, how is this going to go? So since the end of October, we have a Facebook group of 6,200 people, a lot of knitters, a lot. And it's like this real community of Jewish, mostly women with some men, who want to use their creative talents to be more connected. So we started with the hats, thank you. And now I'll just walk you through a quick tour of what this is. And I have to sit only because it's like a maze of wires and you need to be sitting. Okay. Okay, so we first started as a podcast. That's Stephanie Butnick in pink in my backyard. Those went in my sukkah. There's my sukkah there. We was under construction. The tablecloth and the wall hanging are from the artist Yaeli Vogel. I don't know if anyone knows about her work. I love her. So we interviewed her for the show and talked about like how important art is as an expression, or Jewish expression for her. There's Yaeli in the middle there. This giant sukkah on the left is at the Museum of Jewish Heritage. It's unbelievable. Has anyone seen that? I think it's the biggest sukkah I've ever seen. It's not really a sukkah, but it's these hand-painted panels from Hungary before the war. And it was a shochet turned painter. It's the most, you should do a trip. It is really remarkable. Oh, sorry. I'll take you on a trip. They're gonna be like, Tanya said. Okay. We did a story about Torah mantle. So you see Stephanie in front of the Aron there. That's a Huba Gottdiener, homegrown kosher. If anyone knows about her, she's terrific. She did a whole thing on spinning wicks from cotton that she grows. I mean, like really wild. So these are the kinds of stories that speak to us. And then on the bottom right, this is coming up this Thursday. We spoke to the women of Torah Stitch by Stitch. These are they cross-stitched the entire Torah. You did it?
Yeah.
Of course you did. Of course you did. Stitching in Torah, Nancy. Incredible, and we're gonna have a project with them very soon.
Years ago, I did.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's a 7 feet tall and 300 foot of canvas of Ada cloth. Unbelievable.
Just the entire Torah, we cross-stitched the entire Torah.
Incredible. So these are the stories that like we just feel like people need to hear, and we get very excited
the
about
whole
it.
piece of Torah off, and that was that.
Yeah, you had to do four lines or four whatever.
It was a lot.
It's a lot.
It was a lot.
I'm learning cross stitch to do this.
Oh.
Yeah, like this is, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. Knitting is always the home base. So we started after October 7th, this craft along, and in like the broader sort of digital knitting world, especially during COVID, if you went to Zooms for knitting or go to knitting conferences or any of these things, there's always like a make along, a craft along, a thing like that. You guys have been doing it in real life. So we started one and we said, I wrote this piece on the left about the bigger knitting community and how horrible it became after October 7th. And then I was like, forget it, we'll make our own community. So we made little dolls and we worked with people all over the world. This is one of the little dolls. This pattern was designed by an Israeli crocheter named Hila Eller. And I'll show you what we did with them. And there's Chayalim with hats. We wrote some stories about Jewish pride and Jewish expression. And then we had weekly Zooms for probably from November into December, culminating in a trip I took to Israel. And I know I saw many of you before I went on that trip and picked up your black hats, so thank you for making those. These are some of the people that came to speak. You guys know Sam Barsky? you have to know Sam Barsky in the middle in that Hanukkah sweater. He's a terrific guy in Baltimore. He's been written up all over the place. He's like knits. He knits free form. He designs intarsia sweaters, like with no pattern. Like he just starts knitting, and he's knit. We had him come talk and share his collection of Jewish/Israeli inspired sweaters. He has a kotel sweater. He has like 5 Hanukkah sweaters. They're no pattern. Like he just goes. He's unbelievable. So we had Sam Barsky. There's Hila Ellard in the center with her doll. All different makers and artists, writers, etc. There's some of the dolls. We had these cookies made by a person. Love that. So then I went to Israel in December, and I think that's the first 400 hats. I counted them out in groups of 50. Like, yes, it does. And it was incredible, an incredible honor. I brought 7 bags of things to Israel, including some gifts for one of the hostage families that was just, the little boy came home, 11-year-old boy, had things for him, had things for a woman from his kibbutz who was taking care of him. So it was like an incredible journey to take all those things. And then I mostly gave the hats to a knitting store in Renana who distributed them, but I gave some out myself at a train station. And so there's one of the young men, and I tried to like really look at each face and like really remember these kids. And like, this is a card made by 2 of our knitters that one was a card maker and one's a knitter, and she put the card on, and it's just adorable. That's me in my crazy pink with these adorable kids. I had this like giant Hanukkah bag from Amazing Savings. You can picture, it's like, oh, here's the Jewish mother in the middle of the bus station. Like all these young, my son is turning 21. These kids are really my kids' ages. And beautiful, these girls, and just like the most gorgeous faces, love them. So we gave out cards. We realized that Israeli cards open differently from American cards. So that was a little moment where they're like, how do we open it? But it was very sweet, and it's like the juxtaposition of like this gun and this beautiful young face and this like Am Yisrael Chai card and all of it, and it's like each little thing. It's like, I mean, they're not forgotten, like that they would see, and it would just be like from so and so in California, from so and so in Montreal. It's like they feel the power of Am Yisrael. Like it's just amazing. I went to this yarn shop in Renana. This is the Gourmet Yarn Shop. Anyone ever been there on a trip? It's gorgeous. It is gourmet. It's beautiful. They do really high-end things. You can see in the front corner that square, the white. You see this white square with the anemones on it? They were making a blanket. So one of the knitters there, her sister was taken and got free, and her nephew and brother-in-law were taken, and the nephew got home, Eitanya Halomi, the brother-in-law still unaccounted for. And the knitters here, just like any of us would do, wanted to make something for the poor woman whose heart is totally broken and can't go home. So they made that, and they wanted the flower and the colors from the South. So that's just one of the squares that they made, and they all in secret made this blanket for the knitter. So anyway, and all these women, their kids are fighting. It's like, it was quite moving. And I said, instead of me telling you how we feel, I'm going to give you some of the cards before I turn them over. And there was a pile of these cards made by our group, because not everyone's a knitter in the group. And they were just like so happy to feel our love. It was a really incredible day. We then went to deliver these dolls. So there's Hila and my producer Ellie. That's their tushies in the back. So we went to this hospital. We had cards. We had these little worry dolls, and thank you for making them. They were a hit, a humongous hit, and it was such a joy. This guy here was hilarious. His parents were like, "Can you bring him a shidduch? Can you bring him a bride?" I was like, "Listen, I have a lot of things in my bag. I don't have brides, and I'm not getting into that." But this little girl, as little kids do, she had this little egg, and she was sticking the doll in the egg. It was just, they were interacting in ways. He a boy looking for a bride, she a little girl wanting to play. Just natural and beautiful, and they just felt immediate connection to the things that we brought. Then I went to Ayin Tova, which what Stacy mentioned, the knitting circles. These are three of the three founders of Ayin Tova in their loft in Yafo. And it's like this very weird, I kept thinking like, I'm in the wrong place. Like, what is this weird industrial kind of place? You go up these stairs, it's like very strange. And there's sort of this like cement room, like concrete floor. It's nothing like garage kind of feeling. Packed with yarn donated from us, from Stacy mostly at this point, just from generous people who wanted to give the evacuees something to do. These women are volunteers, they have regular jobs, they have real life, but they have done this, and I can't imagine the energy it takes. Since October 9th, I think they started. And they're holding a little sign that's Ayin Tova, made for them by the Stitchers of Sderot, to thank them. So it's such an incredible group. This is one of their knitting circles at the Dead Sea. That was really where we started. And you can see all ages, just a real like unifier. And they have of a Moroccan woman sitting next to a Russian woman. They can't understand, no one speaks Hebrew. And they're all communicating through the yarn. This is the Stacy. Thank you, Stacy. So
They came up with that name, Yarn is Real High. That's my little effort.
we love, it's not little, it's a big, I saw pictures of your garage with the 2 pallets. 2 pallets is like a car. Like a pallet is like a car. So incredible effort to keep getting yarn and needles. And there was a moment where they're like, we need crochet hooks. Okay, we're on it. It's like, and it's just incredible how we keep doing it. So then we started, after that trip in December, we felt like we could make this a real community. And so these are some of the things that people say, and we continue to sort of cultivate this group, and we do that by working with artists primarily in Israel, but also here to bring projects to our group, and we keep meeting over Zoom, etc. So I'd like to give a gift to this group and invite you all. I'll follow up with Nancy and give you a link so that you're all automatically members of our group and can come to our Zooms, because we would love to have you. So one of our first,
Already wearing the pink.
I know, I see the pink. I feel we were in sync. So this is Lisa Rodriguez. She's an Israeli designer in Ramat HaSharon. She's the most gorgeous mother of 7, grandmother of 2, and an unbelievable knitter. So I was at a knitting group, actually Lori Kimball Steele's knitting group, and some of the knitters there said, we really want something that has like a Magen David in it. What can we have? So I called Lisa. I don't design knitting. I said, could you make something with Magen David? And so she goes, give me 2 weeks. I said, you guys know, I'm going to show you how big this is. 2 weeks, guys. She designs this thing, cashmere. This is it. First of all, look at the shape. Oh. Can you see the Magen David? So
Yes.
okay. So it starts with the black of October 7th. We cast on 7 stitches. She's so interesting. She's like, I always start with 7. I mean, the whole thing. She started with 7, and it has this beautiful acrylic edge, and then we kind of bring the black up to sort of still with us, even though we're getting to the light. It's like we're carrying a little bit still there. So she's 3 different star patterns, and if you can see them. This is mine, hers is in Israel, but you're welcome to touch it and play with it and see it. But as members, you'll get access to the pattern if you're interested in making. Yes,
What kind of material?
I used cashmere from an American Jewish woman named was a company called Clinton Hill Cashmere. You could use any. I think it's a DK weight yarn.
This is delicate.
This is and the fuzzy is mohair. So it's Lisa brought the yarn, the mohair for me. It's the Cigar. It's a Danish company. But you can use any mohair, or you could use just any yarn. You could use stash. I'll show you some of the things that our group did. So feel free to come. Look at that. These are some of the people in our group. In our Facebook group, you can see the range of things that they did. I'll use this again. Yeah, a lot of people made the October 7th shawl. So that's some of them. We met with Lisa. There she is in the center. She came to Vogue Knitting. I don't know, has anyone ever been to Vogue Knitting or any of these? It's like you take classes and so on. So we were like, every group has a thing. There's there's the gay knitting group, there's the Black knitting group, there's the man knitting group. I'm like, we want a Jewish knitting group. So they gave us a room. We had our Jewish knitting group, and Lisa made this flag, which you see there, this huge flag, which is in my office in New York. And we had all the knitters come, and it was really a delightful a chance to meet. Then we did this, Shayna Billow is an American designer. We don't want to just knit, we also crochet, do other things. So this is my, I have to keep in my hands. Yeah, so the yarn was dyed by a Jewish man, lives in Florida, called Yarn Snob, and his colorway is called True Blue. I love it, and he puts the Israel flag on the label. And he, you know, in the knitting world, that's a big deal to sort of make such a statement. Like people, of course, I'm sure boycotted his business. We support him extra. We're like, 2 skeins. Yes, oh, when you'll get this all when I'll send the membership link and you'll get all these patterns. This is delightful. The beginning was a little, not always a crocheter first, but to me, I see Israel flags, right? Like the triangles, I just love it. So, and it's light. I knit mine in the fingering weight, but you could use, it was designed, I think, with worsted. So then I asked Lisa for a flag, and there's my little flag on the front. I wore it on my back until I got too hot yesterday at the parade, and I couldn't wear it anymore. But she designed this flag for us, and she made the star a little closed, the top point and the bottom point, until the hostages are home. She felt like she couldn't just make a normal flag. Another project that we did through Beautifully Jewish, this really came from our members. We were on one of our Zooms and people started talking about the hostages and feeling like there wasn't enough visibility. And so we worked with a designer named Sarah Divvy in Westchester, who designed a knit and crochet yellow ribbon patterns. Very simple patterns. And this is an installation we did in Scarsdale, at the JCC in Scarsdale. For those of you who know our big seasons in Scarsdale, anyone ever go to, okay, so that's my seasons. Stacy knows I'm always calling her from like the seasons are always like, I have to go to seasons. So in our seasons, thank God not seasons, but 2 of the businesses were vandalized this year with terrible speech on the windows. And so it felt like really important to do something, not just because it's the JCC in the middle of a very Jewish community, but also as a statement to like anyone who would dare to express hate in our community, we're gonna come back and remind you where it started and what we're thinking about, which is the return of our hostages. So I wrote a piece about the history of the yellow ribbon. It's on tablet, if anyone's curious. It's called Tie Your Yellow Ribbon. Everyone knows the song? Yes? I was waiting to hear. It's great. It's actually, and there's another song. So if you read the piece, you'll know there's a second song even older. We don't just knit. I always knit first, so I want to say we do other things. There's lots of creative inspiration. This is the bag here. We celebrate artists, different artists. This is an artist in Sweden. A lot of people bought bags from her. She said, like, she did this. This is all hand embroidered. The Hummentaschen, can you see those? That's Shayna Billow. I thought that was just the cutest thing I've ever seen. And then on the far right, we did a follow cover. This is someone's hand stitched. That for me is that's a lot of small needle. Yeah, you know, Nancy loves it. I'm like, that's kind of that would take. But it's everything. There's everything going on in there. There are people who do clay. It's like just an inspiring, beautiful place. The bracelets also Shayna made Bring Back Our Girls. And some other people made bracelets too. So there's a bunch of beaders in there. There's people who do very fine, like bead weaving. And then there's these more accessible beads. But you'll, if any of you use Facebook, if not, you'll get our newsletter and you'll see all these ideas. We also, Stephanie and I produced a Passover pop-up. So we did a tablet Hanukkah bazaar. We did this Passover pop-up. We're always like trying to bring Jewish designers and artists and artisans together. This was something we worked on that was, we're very proud of this. This was in New York in mid-April. We do other events. This is at my synagogue in Scarsdale. We come and do a fun thing where we talk about objects. Like, so this is Stephanie with my Rabbi Ann Baldachin. And we were looking at this, like people bring objects from home and talk about them and what they mean and what they meant to their families. And then we do a craft. So we were doing challah covers. We've done these we've made Shabbat candles before. We just try to really come together in real life with people. And very soon we're going to have a summer retreat, which I'm super excited about. We're going to announce it hopefully this week. So that's beautifully Jewish. I just wanted to give you like. And then some of you asked, so I'll show this. I just bought in Israel. I was there the end of April from a artist who does machine knitting, just like a whole other. And I wanted to show you this challah cover that I bought.
I'm gonna ask you something.
Yeah.
I have a daughter who lives in Israel, and she would like to join.
Of course, we have plenty. We have tons of.
Telephone numbers, she can read.
Yeah, sure. I'll get Nancy all the information, but for sure, we have many women in Israel who are part of this. Who are part of Beautifully Jewish, and we try when we do the Zooms to do some at 1 and some at 7, so that like the Israelis can come. Like all the Americans want it later. Well, we miss Israel, so we're like, too bad you can make this your lunch break, and the Israelis when they can do it. Yeah, I would love her to join.
So can we support them by ordering Israeli products? Like, let's say that challah cover.
Yes,
I mean,
1000%.
I would
She
love
gave a
to
discount for our group too. She came to speak about 2 weeks ago and she offered us a special 20% off. She has, Stacy and I are gonna fight over it, right? She made,
Stacy didn't know she was right.
I can't. She made an Aisha style, a 10-foot long tablecloth, machine knit with the entire, it's the most, I have goosebumps thinking about it, it's the most gorgeous thing. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't put this on a table. My family are too messy. I'm like, I want to hang it on a wall. It's the most beautiful thing, and it's just stunning and colors the whole thing. So yeah, we're always trying to bring in artists and support artists. Yeah,
We would love to be
Good.
able to support it.
We have the yarn stores in Israel, and that's the thing, is like, in addition to sending stuff over, we always want to support Israeli businesses. The nuances, the hotels is that the hotels don't have budgets to do yarn. They're not gonna use high-end yarn from these types of yarn stores. But if there are people who want to order, there's a lot of places, getting information, like Torme Yarn Store, other ones, and there's specialty stores.
we try to just aggregate everything. And there are people in the group who start other sort of like there's a woman in the group who started a list of Jewish businesses to support here, yarn businesses. So like and people who support us, people who support Israel. So she calls it her blue list. So she really vets people and makes sure that they're not posting horrible things on the internet and that they're like they're friends to us. So yeah, there's all these. It's like this times however big we are. There's 6,000 people. So it's a really like. I don't know how much time I spend in there, but it's a lot because it's just like a really nice, happy place on the internet in the middle of a lot less happy stuff. So it's good.
I'm just gonna add also one of the beautiful things that I see firsthand is that there are women all over the country, Jewish women, every background, every shape, size, whatever. I have women in Oregon knitting baby rompers in Florida, but the togetherness, like the way that we're all just support each other unconditionally is probably like the cherry on the top of this disaster. Like what's come out, it's like a bright spot and what's come out of it.
I have forgotten how we connected because Mrs. Bender had fallen, and so Helping Hands. I have forgotten how Tanya and I had first connected. Mrs. Bender had fallen last year, and so Helping Hands was getting someone to go daily. We were all taking turns to go visit her. And that's how I came to Tanya. But we first met in the sukkah. And then I connected to Stacy. And through Helping Hands, we heard that somebody had moved to Riverdale to the Hebrew home. And that's how I met Anna. And Anna has brought so many people and has knit. How many hats did you make? How many hats did you make?
I think 7 or 8.
Right, Anna's been knitting constantly, and so it's been just wonderful how we've all connected.
My daughter made this.
That's beautiful.
Our daughter.
Wow.
That's beautiful. And so many of us have just connected randomly, but we've connected because we first started being part of Helping Hands, and one thing has led to another. Tanya has also brought us beautiful bags, so if you didn't get a bag yet, please raise your hand and get a bag. Did you want to talk about the knitting, if Elisa comes?
Oh, yeah, so we're working on it. So Lisa Rodrigue, who you saw, who's my son is in Israel, and she's like his mom now. She's like his Sephardi mom, and he's been there. He was just there for Shabbos. He's like, I don't know how many, maybe 6 times, 5. Like she's always open, like the most incredible, amazing person. And I asked for something with the Magen David. I got this beautiful thing. I asked for a flag. I just love to support her, and she's in Ramat HaSharon. She teaches, I think, up to 90 students a week. She's hoping to come to America this summer, so I would love to do a class with her. So if anyone's interested, I'll share everything with Nancy, but I'm really trying to help support her and help her build her profile outside of her universe that she's in. So
I would like to see the work they do. So it's
let's see it. Let's see it.
gorgeous.
Amazing.
So right now, I don't know, Stacy, if you're getting these blackies, because I saw a picture on Facebook that 15 new babies have been born from one of the kibbutzim that were attacked. So we're making 15 blankets, one for each of those babies. But I was also thinking maybe we want to start knitting and crocheting yellow ribbons. And so thank you all who have, somebody just handed me a check. We can start buying yellow yarn. And Bonnie has used a lot of yellow yarn. Bonnie's mother has used a lot. Andrea could not be here today, but Andrea is part of this group and part of the organizing and the schlepping and all the love. And if you just give me and Fern 5 minutes, we're going downstairs to bring up pre-Shavuot cheesecake for everyone.
Oh, wow.
I know, but it's not worth going on a diet this week because Shavuot is next week. And they're diet cheesecakes, so it's even not better. And we're gonna share it, right? So thank you all so much for coming, but more than anything, thank you for all the support, financially, emotionally, for being here, really week in and week out, being part of this, because as I said, I'm just up to hat number 4.
When are you starting up again?
We're continuing, we do not stop. We're gonna go, we'll have another program in July, I just don't know the date.
I just want to say, I live right near the JCC that has the yellow ribbons. And I pass by on the street every day. It's on a main street and it is extremely powerful. And I had no idea they were knitted. And I kept thinking, how come these ribbons are staying so well? They always look so perfect. And now I know they're knitted. It's very powerful on display.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, my cousins are, so Eva's daughter. Yeah. I just want to take a minute and share this. This is such a beautifully Jewish moment. I want to introduce a special guest, Leo. Leo was in the Haganah, you guys. This is 1948. We are in the presence of an OG. I love this.
Okay, everybody. I used to be a member of Nea Kiva, was a religious youth movement. And this is where we trained ourselves, 814. all kind of self-defense. And I was Haganah member. In 1948, in February, my unit of the Haganah was sent to do some work. We were called, the religious unit from Haganah was called Pluga Hey Chel Sadeh, infantry. And here comes a tank. We were supposed to meet someplace. Comes a British tank. He got paid. And he takes it where we were sent. We were sent to a place called Ben Shemen, not far from the airport. That's between three Arab states: Ramle, Lod, and Bet Nabala. Bet Nabala, you didn't hear. This was the headquarters of the Jordanian Legion. We were in the middle. We were surrounded eventually. And a month and a half later, it's Pesach. What do? I have pictures to prove that we made matzah. One of the volunteers had smicha, which means he was ordained. Was ordained in a rabbinate, but he didn't work as a rabbi. But he watched how we baked. He had a shochet, because in Ben Shemen used to be a farming village and a youth village. So they took out the children, took out the older people, but left us stuck also not only to defend the place, we had to work in the field, we had to feed the cows and the chickens, the goats, whatever we had. And we did. And so we made Pesach, we made our own matzah. And what can I tell you? I was born in Germany, 1926. I'm still a youngster. And about 8 years later, 1934, my father said, time to leave this country. So we were smart survivors. And we went to Israel. In Israel, was such a difficult time, you have no idea. In Germany, my father had 23 people working for him. In Israel, my mother had to go to the orchard to pick oranges from, and she climbed on the ladder, and she pulled out to pull oranges. Come Friday night, we understand Yiddish a little bit? I'll translate it. So here is Friday night, almost every night. Kinderlach, die Stück of Fleisch for Shabbos. Children, we have no meat for Shabbos. Look, I can show you my muscle. I still swim, I'm 98. Yeah. So we will go up without, I was a member fully, and thank God he gave me the pleasure to participate. 1956, you know, there was the Sinai campaign. And it was June 10. July 10. July 8, my wife came home from the hospital with a new baby, a daughter. It was Yom Revi, Wednesday. All right, so Friday night, we celebrate our Kiddush. In the middle of the Kiddush, boom, somebody knocks on the door. We thought the door gets broken. I put down the cup and I'm running to the door. Judah, you have to be in near after the hour at 12 o'clock at night. Walk, ride a bicycle, take a horse, anywhere you come, you must be there. But this guy was driving. Now I'm going to the army, so you know, pikuach nefesh to pay Shabbat, right? You know that. So I go right away in the other room. She didn't know yet what's going on. I put on my reserve clothes, and the army was very poor. My pants didn't fit me yet, so the zipper wasn't closed, and I took a rope and tightened it around, and I come in. They say, Shabbat Shalom. Ishta Gata.